participants of ALSA International Legal Writing. As the Director of Academic Publications 2020, I am very grateful and thankful for the enthusiasm that has been given to this event. We believe that one of the objectives of ALSA and as an embodiment of the academically committed pillar is to provide activities to enhance the skills of Asian law students. So we hope that this event serves to do so in developing our legal writing and English skills, and also encourage all of us to contribute for the ALSA academic publications of ALSA Legal Newsletter, ALSA Law Review, and the Asian Journal of Legal Studies. I hope that today's event will be meaningful for all of us. Thank you, and ALSA, always be one.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nasha. Next, let's hear the greetings from Vishnu Farna as the Vice President of Academic Activities, ALSA International Board 2020-2021. To Mr. Vishnu, the time and place is yours.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Vishnu.
A very good afternoon to our speaker, Mr. Aristio Darmawan, our facilitators, Ms. Shirin Chua, as well as Ms. Ratu Walundari, senior officers of the International Board of ALSA, and most importantly, beloved ALSA members from far and wide. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the ALSA International Legal Writing and English Workshop 2020. Thank you all for being here today. We have prepared a highly qualified panel of professionals for you, so I hope you get the most out of this workshop, and most importantly, enjoy yourselves. ALSA, always be one.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishnu, for the greetings. Next, we'd like to welcome Griselda Audrey as the President of ALSA International Board 2020-2021 to say a few words. To Ms. Audrey, the time.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you so much. The Honorable Mr. Aristio Darmawan as our speaker, the Honorable Ms. Sirin Chua, and Ms. Ratu Wulandari as our facilitators. Last but not least, to all the participants of the pilot project of ALSA International Legal Writing and English Workshop 2020. I believe it's a hard time for everyone. Fortunately, during this hard time, the technology allows us to have a workshop even though we are not in the same room or in the same place together. Hope that this hard situation won't hamper your spirit to challenge yourself and learn and keep learning about new things. I hope that this event will give you a proper knowledge how to write a good and proper legal writing. I hope you enjoy this event and good luck. ALSA, always be one.
Thank you very much, Ms. Audrey. Now to all the participants of the workshop, I would like to remind you, firstly, to change the name as stated in the participant guidelines to chamber_name_national chapter or country. For instance, to _Gina_Indonesia. Secondly, to always turn on the camera and mute the microphone. Thirdly, to actively participate in the workshop as there will be the best participants awards. And lastly, to stay until the end of the workshop as well as filling the feedback forms in order to obtain the e-certificate. Now, and it's one of the most awaited session, as today we have Mr. Aristio Darmawan to share about legal writing and English itself. Mr. Aristio Darmawan is a lecturer in international law at Universitas Indonesia. He received a Bachelor of Law from Universitas Indonesia and a Master of International School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, the US. Mr. Aristio also works as a researcher at the Center for Sustainable Ocean Policy, and his articles on the South China Sea and the law of the sea have appeared in international outlets. Without any further ado, let's welcome Mr. Aristio. Mr. Aristio, the time and place.
Thank you very much, Gina, for the very warm and kind introductions. And also, hi everyone, good afternoons. I wish you all well. And also thank you, ALSA, for inviting me here to discuss the very I think, very interesting and important issues to all of us as a lawyer and maybe a student, law student. So the organizers or the ALSA internationals has been asking me to speak about a lot of things about international law articles or international legal writing. However, since the time is, I only have like 30 minutes to talk and 15 minutes to uh, question and answer. So I think I put everything into press. So, but I'll already share the slides to the organizers, so they might share the presentations to all of you if I can't finish all the materials within 30 minutes. So so let's start. So here's a little bit about my profile. So I work as an academic, as a law lecturer, and writing, legal writing is something that's just dear to my heart. I write quite several articles in the last 12 months. I published mostly it's not really long articles, mostly short and op-ed piece, which however, I also write several international journals, but I mostly write on legal op-eds, short opinions that related to law, because I found that it's very much interesting. And I think during your practice, maybe you could also like, I don't know, write 500 words of legal essay, very short, very brief, and that should be sharp and on point. So what we're trying to do here in the next 30 minutes or so is we will talk about mostly on legal writings, right? What is legal writings? What are the definitions, or what are the types of an academic legal writings? Why it's relevant for you as a law student, and what are the challenges there's a lot of us will face when we're writing a law essay, and also the correlations between the academic legal writing and also your future opportunities, your future job as a lawyer. And the last and most important is like how we start to write a legal article. So this is what we're trying to put in press in the next 13 minutes, just so you have the ideas and expectations on what we'll going to discuss in the next 30 minutes. So, and this is just a set of literature that I use for my presentations, and also the book that guide me throughout my legal writing career. So this is very good books. I don't know, maybe several of you should have an access to these books. It's an academic legal writing, a law review articles, student notes, seminar papers, and getting to law reviews written by Eugene Follock. I think this book is one of the best legal art books about legal articles that is encapsulates and captures a very detailed aspect and process on how to write a law article. And on the right is written in Bahasa Indonesia, but it's basically encapsulate or summarized the books of Eugene Follock. So if you want to know or dig deeper about legal writing, I really suggest you to read these books from Eugene Follock. So to begin with, I think I want to start with what motivates us to write a law article, a law review articles. First, maybe as a professionals in the field of law, I think you should build a personal reputations among your peers. For example, if you want to become a renowned international lawyers or constitutional lawyers, I think you want to be recognized by your peers in that particular field of law. So, and legal writing, writing a law review article or published in a journal will really help you to give you a personal reputations among your peers. For example, if you're an international lawyers in Asia, you really want to publish in an Asian journal of international law, because there is a place where all international lawyers in Asia might read articles. Or if you want to be an expert in a particular country's constitutional law, for example, so you should publish in a journal of constitutional law. So legal writings will really help you to build your personal reputations that will be it will be open for a future job, for instance. But also there's another type of legal articles. It doesn't have to be a journal. Sometimes you can write also a book or even a short op-ed piece that you will publish in a think tank news maybe, or a newspaper. Some of my colleagues published widely in, including me, I published widely in also in media, newspaper media, Jakarta Post, Rappler in the Philippines, they have it, Straight Time in Singapore. A lot of professors done that as well. And we will talk more a bit on that later on. Some of you as a law student, you're required to write a lot of law essays, part of your assignment. Sometimes it's also as your personal interest. If you want, you have a passion in writing. Sometimes writing is give a lot of joys to some of us. So there's a lot of benefit to be able to write an academic legal articles, whether in journals, books, or in short op-ed piece. So what are the type of legal writings or legal academic publications? First, if you're like scholars, you're taking a doctor degrees, PhDs, or SJDs, maybe you want to write a length of book, maybe like 400 pages or 500 pages about a particular field of law that you are focusing on, then you should write books. It's usually a very lengthy. It should be a narrative, argumentative, broad topics, and relevant for a year. Maybe for scholars, if you're going to be legal scholars, writing books after you gather your PhDs is something that you should take into consider, and it's also very important for you. And particularly if you could publish your work in a reputable international publications such as the Routledge, Palgrave, or the Cambridge University Press, or etc. But I think it's very much more difficult for a law student in this stage. So I think we keep on that for the future or for later on. So what we're trying to be more focused in these next 30 minutes is to talk about more on law review article journals, or article in a popular media, or op-eds. So what are the difference? So the law journals is as a student, I guess that you are already familiar with law review articles, right? So it's usually around like 10,000 to 15,000 words in a particular legal issue. So it should be concise, and it also should be current issues. For example, there should be a novelty of a particular topics that you want to write, and it's for a specific targeted audience. For instance, if you publish articles in the Asian Journal of International Law, so mostly or nearly anyone who will read your essay would be an international lawyers. There is a very rare case on like doctors maybe read the Asian Journal of International Law or those kind of things. So the readers is a particular targeted for an international lawyers or people who have a particular knowledge in that particular field. So the things, the technical aspect, the language that you use for in writing a law essay, it's generally more specific and you specific or you might use some kind of a terminology that is very specific for a targeted audience. It's usually a conceptual articles in the recent development of that particular issues. There should be a novelty or a new additional thing that you can contribute to the development of the knowledge in that particular subject. For example, if you want to write about a recent ruling from the International Court of Justice, or any development of law that happened in your particular countries that might be interested for international audience, I think a law review article would be very suitable for that kind of works. And the process usually first you submit through an online process for examples like most of a prominent international journals, they have their own online platform where you have to create an account, and then you submit your anonymous without your name's manuscript through online platform, and then the editor-in-chief or the managing editor will see your manuscript and decide whether it is suitable for the journals or not, whether the topics is in line with the scope of the journals, or whether the quality of the manuscript is suitable for the journals or not. If the managing editor think that your manuscript is suitable or is good enough for the journal, or the topics is suitable for the journals, then they will send it to a peer review process they will send your blind manuscript without your name to a so-called a double-blind peer review process. So they will give you to they will give your manuscript to two scholars, which they don't know who wrote that manuscript, and you don't know who then reviewed your manuscript. So it's called a double-blind peer-reviewed process. It took quite a long period of time, usually maybe up to 6 months or even a year. My personal experience submitting to the Asia Pacific Journal of Asia Pacific Journal of Ocean Law and Policy. It took me like nearly a year until I get a review and feedback from the double-blind peer-reviewed scholars. After that, it's very rare that they will immediately accept your manuscript. In most of the time, they will give you like a lot of comments because the double-blind peer reviewer will involve scholars that expert in that particular field. So they will give you like a lot of comments and notes and feedbacks to your manuscripts, which is good, so that you can learn more, then you can revise your manuscripts. They will give you like another 4 months or up to 6 months so that you can revise your manuscripts, and then you can resend it again to them, and then they will finally decide on whether or not it is already suitable for publication or not. So writing in a law review articles or in international journals, it took a lot of effort in terms of effort to find the topics, or when you do the writing process, and but also a lot of process in terms of the peer reviewed process and selections and everything. So, but once you get accepted to an international journals, I think you've got a lot of credits for scholars. You get a lot of points for your careers, or if if you're the professionals, you get a lot of recognitions from peers in that particular field. So there will be a lot of benefit in publishing articles in a international law review or international or reputable journals. So that is law articles in one thing. But on the other thing, if you're not working as a scholar, you're working as a researcher in a think tank, or even if you're a practicing lawyer, I think it would be much more sense, or you might have a lot of more chance to write an op-ed articles where you're published in a popular media. For example, a lot of lawyers, even professors in Singapore, publish their articles in the Straits Times, or in Malaysia they published in maybe New Straits Times or the ASEAN Post, or maybe in the Philippines. From some of you I recognize come from Philippines. A lot of professors write for Rappler. And also, I think a lot of national, all of countries, they have their own media, which they have opinion, some sort of opinion rubrics in that media. And there's a lot of benefit in writing for a popular media. For example, if a law review articles, they will only be read by very few scholars in that particular subject. But if you write for an popular media, there will be like more thousands of people that gonna read your essay. In 2015, there's a very good articles written in the Straits Times in Singapore called "Professors, No One Read You." That was the title, and the articles is discussing that urging or suggesting that more scholars, social science scholars, to publish more in op-eds media rather than academic journals, because only very few people wrote an academic journal, read academic journals, but a lot of people read an op-eds media, and so that makes more sense. So what's the difference? First is the audience. If you write for a law review, the audience is a targeted specific audience in that particular field. And op-eds articles, your target is wide, a public audience. There might be doctors, a biologist, an engineer that read your particular article. So the language that you use should be not targeted to a particular people who know details about the topics, but should be read and understand by a lot of peoples, common peoples, not non-lawyer peoples. And the selections for newspapers, there will be only the editor. They usually have an opinion editor that will select your piece, whether it's suitable or not for the newspaper. The selections process is very much shorter. However, if you recognize there is some think tank analysis, they have it's quite a peer review process where they also send it to several researchers to see whether or not your piece is suitable or given an additional value. So these are the three types of academic articles in general. So what are the challenges? Surely for all of us, maybe when we first write an article, it's not something that is easy since the very first time, right? So most of us will facing a lot of challenges, obstacles when we are writing. So here are some of my tips on how to start writing an article. So first, my suggestions would be you should read more, as many as books and articles that you can read. I think it would really will help you to figure it out on how writing will look like, on how to organizing a good paragraph, or how to find a good topics for an articles, and those kind of things. So if you rarely read anything, it would be very difficult for you to write anything. So the first key to be a writer is you should read more and more, anything, right? So you're gonna benefit from the knowledge that you read. Then you'll be able to have an ideas to write, and you'll also have the knowledge on how to rearrange sentences, how to organize a good paragraph, and those kind of things. So read is very much important. And the next is improvement. It's to practice, right? So I rarely, or I never see people. Surely there may be some of them out there that are born and then they have a good writing skills, right? But as far as I knew, a lot of good writers, they have a lot of practice, right? They have a lot of rejections, maybe, of their manuscripts. So keep practicing. It's very important. Either you wrote like 500 words each and every day, or maybe 200 words each and every day. It will surely very much help you to build your writing skills in terms of how your language, your vocabularies, and also just anything about, like, just keep you practice and keep you get used to write. It's very useful to be a good writer, I think. Yeah, so next, so this is a clip from a video. It's a very famous video from Professor Larry McEnergy. He's the head of the University of Chicago writing program. So if you go to YouTube and find his name, so there's a very famous videos on him giving lectures on how to write an effective or how to become an effective writer. So he pointed out that there's a lot of criteria on what considered as a good articles, right? So it should be persuasive, it should be clear, the argument, it should be there should be a new knowledge from that writing, that should be an original. But interestingly, he pointed out there is two the most important point that is for a law article or for any article, which is the first one is valuable and important, right? So important, it must be an important thing for that particular scholars or that particular field of law, right? So for example, if you want to publish the articles in a criminal law review, right? So that particular topics, so your particular topics should be an important topics for all criminal lawyers. If it's well organized, if it's persuasive, if it is clear, but it's not important for a criminal lawyer or for people who read your article, so it would be useless. The editor will reject your articles or your piece. And the second one is valuable. If it is, you targeted a public audience, right? You want to publish something in a newspaper, so it should be valuable for the reader, right? For public audience, it could be maybe a recent cases or a recent development in law, so that it should be valuable, right? So even though it's persuasive, even though it's clear, even though it's well structured, but if it's not valuable, no one is going to read your articles, and the editor will not pick your article. So it is very interesting that at the top of every good articles criteria, it should be valuable and important. So I think it could be something that you take it from home. So then, how do we begin writing, right? So before you write, you might want to think about several points. The first one is the purpose of your articles, right? Who will read your articles? What do you want a reader to think after you read your article? And you also, maybe you should decide on the research methodology. It might be a comparative, it might be a sociologic, empiric, or anything. So the approach that you want to use in writing that article is also very important, right? For example, if you want to make a comparison of death penalty amongst Asian countries, I think that is also quite a very interesting topics and those kind of things. The approach, the methodology, it's something also a very important element when you're writing a law article, and also the topics of the theme, right? Maybe you've decided on to which field of law that you want to focusing on, either maybe criminal law, private law, business law, international law. So my suggestions is that you have one of your particular topics of interest. Then you should decide who will be the audience, right? If you want to write for a public audience, maybe you have to adjust your language. It should not to be a very maybe legalist approach, or you should avoid a legal jargon, quoting direct articles from a law, because public will more difficult to understand your article if you were using a legal jargons and etc. etc. So you have to know who will read your article, right? Then list on relevant literature, right? It will be related to how will you do the research, which I will talk later on, and your writing style, and one of the last important is article outline. We will discuss it a bit later. So then how can you find an idea for a law review or a law articles, right? So one of the classic problems from all of us is that we want to write, but we don't know what to write, right? And then we just like, what the hell I'll write. So it's a very common problem, right? So how you can get ideas for writing? First, as an academics, books, journals, media, articles, is very important to know what other recent development in that particular field of law that you are researching on, right? So if you want to write about constitutional law, you have to be aware on the recent development of constitutional law cases in your countries. Maybe what are the recent ruling from the constitutional court, or on those kind of things. So read everything, right? So because read will give you knowledge and substance that we will make you easily to decide what are the recent development and ideas for you to write. The second thing is write something that is not yet available out there, because one of the other common mistakes for all of us is that we just write something that is descriptive. We just repeating something that's been already out there without giving any additional value or giving additional novelty on the topics, right? So it is very important after you read, after you've done the literature review, then you know what to add in that particular topics. Okay, so think what is a new perspective on that particular issues. It's also should be very important for you in order to get your article published. Okay, so we just move it faster. Okay, so this is the type of law articles, argumentative law articles, law reviews, right? So to avoid just a descriptive of law or something you just like mentioning the law. Here are some of the examples on how can you write a law review article. First, maybe you can discuss, or you can argue that something that law X is unconstitutional because blah blah blah. For example, it might be very more familiar for you in Indonesia. to write, for example, on whether or not the omnibus bill or the job creation law is constitutional or not. If you arguing yes, it's constitutional, why? If you argue that it's unconstitutional, why? You should describe, you should argue something on that. Or the second is the legislature ought to enact the following statute. Maybe you should argue that the legislative should have a bill on the prevention of sexual assault, on those kind of things that is not yet there. So that is also a common law review topics, properly interpreted on how a state should interpret articles, maybe in international conventions. Once I wrote an articles about how to interpret the Article 51 of the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea, because many international treaties, many international conventions, provisions is actually ambiguous, where you can argue a lot of things to that particular article. So it's quite very familiar for an international lawyer to write something about how to interpret a certain articles in a convention. So that is also a possible topics. Or maybe you can argue that the effect of a law, for example, the law is like to have a following side effects. For example, the omnibus bill will give the following effects. Maybe it will, you argue that the omnibus bill will give a more chance for corruptions, those kind of things, the effect of law, and those kind of things that you can read. So this is the typical law review articles argument, the classic one. However, in the recent development, one professor at the NUS, Professor Joseph Weiler, said that recently, maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, international law reviews is much more interested in some kind of a comparative issues, right? For example, the economic approach to international law. It's one of the top recent topics that is highly written by legal scholars, and also highly get published by the editor. So those kind of things, or maybe the sociological approach to international law, or the influence of criminology in criminal law, those kind of things. So it's going more interdisciplined and involving not only one field, but also maybe you can relate to a field in a scholarly field, for example, international law and international relations and those kind of things. So it's also a possible topics that you could explore when you're writing a law review article. So how to write a good paragraphs, right? So for some of us, if you're not used to write, it's also something that you should take into consider. First, you have to make sure that each and every paragraph should have one key topics or one key main issues that you want to say in a paragraph, right? So because if you want to write a paragraph and you have like 3 ideas or 4 ideas in that particular in one paragraph, it would be the reader will find it more difficult to digest on what you were trying to say. So my suggestions is that you should only have one main ideas in each paragraph, right? So you have one ideas that you want to say in a paragraph, then you support it with argument, right? You should support it with legal argument. You should cite law that backed up or that support your argument, and or you can have any data that actually support your argument. So make sure that in one paragraph you only have one main issues or main argument. Then where to look for writing materials? I think all of you during law school has already been familiar with doing a legal research on finding read cases, read court rulings, read law review articles. You should get used to see the Westlaw, Hain Online, and those kind of law journals portals. You have to getting used to read the court decisions, new statutes, maybe legal blogs, recent online database journals. Because sometimes read the cases, it's also very important. even though maybe for Indonesian law students, we are not really get used to read cases, maybe in compare with a colleague from common law, that they get used to read cases a lot more than we in civil law. But I think your skills to be able to read court decisions is very important as a lawyer. And also, my suggestions is that attend a symposium, panels, webinars, where you can get a new knowledge, practical knowledge on a particular field of law. Working as a research assistant for faculty members, practicing lawyers is also will give you opportunities to get access more on legal materials. Yeah, so you will know there's a legal problems to be written, right? So you get more knowledge, more discussions on the development of law that could be a possible topics to write. Okay, so where to start? So there are a lot of maybe there is no strict steps for writing, right? So either you can do a research while writing your draft, or you can finish all the research then start writing your draft. So it's really up to you. It's really based on which one do you think you more comfortable for each of you. But at least for me, there are 7 steps that you might want to consider when you're writing an article. The first is articulate research questions, right? So you decide your particular topics that you want to write, and then you think what are research questions about that particular topics. So after you think what you want to do research on, you articulate the questions. Then after you have the questions, the legal questions in mind, then you start your preliminary research, right? So my suggestions is that you read all the things, right? You read the media, news media maybe. So you might have an ideas on to what extent the discourse about that particular topics. So to get the facts about that issues, right? So research the media first, and then you read the law review articles, you read the journals, you get the ideas about the theoretical framework about the topics, right? Or you read the books about maybe is there a existing analysis on that particular topics that you want to write, and to what extent that the existing literature analysis about that particular topics. So it is very important so that you know the gap between the existing literature and the novelty that you can write in the future about that particular topics, right? So you will not only repeat something that's already been written out there, right? So start a preliminary research, and then develop your working outline, right? So after you know your research questions, you've done your preliminary research, it would be better for you to already have an argument, right? A claim in your articles. What is your main argument, right? So after you decide your main argument that you want to say in your articles, then you should create an outline. You should decide maybe what are the supporting argument for your main argument, right? So put your outline as detailed as possible. So when you start writing, you will it will help you more on writing, right? So some maybe because a lot of writers obstacles is when they're starting writing and then they stop because they don't know what to write next, right? So by having an outline, it will really help you in when you're doing your writing process. And then after you do create the outline, and then you do the research, you analyze, you update the outlines, you read a lot of reports, literature, and anything. And if it's necessary to update your outlines, you could update your outlines. Then you should write the draft of your manuscripts, right? And after you edit, after you finish your draft, give it to your colleague, give it to your professors, let them read and give you comments before you actually finished and submit your draft. So if you want to write for a public audience, you could send it to your parents, maybe your mother, so that she if she doesn't have a legal background, she might want to read on whether or not your argument is easy to understand or not, and then edit ruthlessly, edit the flow of the articles, edit the grammar, maybe edit your vocabulary, whether it's suitable or not. So yeah, anything. So edit and edit and edit, right? It's very important. Never send a draft that is not yet been edited, right? And then submit your articles and relax. Submit to the editor, submit to your professor, submit to your boss, and just relax. Moderator, can you please remind me how many more minutes that I have, so I will adjust.
2 minutes left.
How many minutes? How many minutes?
2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. All right. So so how to do conducting research? So yeah, we're gonna step here. Okay, so how to do research. This is important. As I said before, read all the latest news about the subjects, read all the relevant commentary and analysis, read all journals, articles, law review articles, find recent data. Oh yeah, and what I want, it's also important for you to have a skills in reading and finding a good resources. For examples, if you want to write a particular topics, there is a lot of journals out there, right? So before you dedicate it in reading journal articles, which is sometimes very long, you have to make sure that the journal that you read will benefit for your research, right? So my suggestions is that read the abstract first, the introductions and the conclusions. If you think that it's not really a benefit for your research, I think I just left it. Just don't use it, don't read it. So find recent data from maybe international organizations, NGOs that might support your argument. Read all the legal materials, law, if there's an international law conventions or any laws that could be applicable for the use. This is very important. You should make a claim in your articles. Never write an articles without any claims, because it just will be a very descriptive piece. So decide what is your main argument, what is your positions of your articles in a particular legal issues. And it would be better for you also to be able to provide maybe solutions in your articles, right? So what is the ingredients of a good claims? So first is legally defensive as possible. Read the law, understand the law, understand maybe how to interpret the law. So please assure that you have a right interpretations and you have the right law that's supporting your argument. And avoid the politically offensive argument that is too political. It would be damaging all your argument. And try to choose a creative argument in your article, so the editors, the reviewers will see that there is a novelty or something new that you offer in your articles. Right, so organizing articles is also very important. Write the introductions, explain the fact, legal doctrines to underlying your claims, prove your claims with the data, with the law, with anything. General issues or subsidiary issues. Before you conclude, make sure that you rewrite your introductions, restate your argument, then you conclude your articles. So this is the very general rules of legal opinion. You have to understand and have the fact of that issue, of that cases. You have to understand the issues, what is the legal questions about in your articles, and you have to put the regulations on it. Maybe if it is an international law, find a conventions, or if it is a national law, find the regulations on that particular topics, and make sure you have a good analysis. You're not only stating the law or stating the facts, but you are put your analysis on it. Your cross-reference, you put analysis on whether the fact it's already fit with the regulations, and whether how to answer the legal questions that you have in your articles, and then you can conclude with the conclusions of your articles. Yeah, so introduction is very important. Make it interesting. Start it with a recent event. Put it concretely. put your claim in the introductions. It's very often useful for you, and do it forcefully, right? Because introduction is very important, because people will decide to read or not to read your articles from the abstract and also from the introductions. So if your introduction is boring, if you fail to give the ideas of your articles in the introductions, uh, maybe readers will not read your whole article. So introduction is one of the most important part. So the introductions should mirror your argument of your whole paper. So I think I don't have enough time. So yeah, prove your claim, show there's a problem, right? So because a lot of writers fail to show that there is an actual problem in that articles, so they just like too descriptive. So make sure that you state the problems in the introductions. Yeah, make your article richer, go beyond basic claims, be concrete, confront the other side argument. It's also a good idea sometimes. Turn your problems in your argument to your advantage and improve your argument. Final tips before I end the sessions is read more, read all the things, read something that in your particular research interest. It's very useful. Read like a writer, think like a writer. When you read, make sure that you read that articles critically. Find the gaps, find the loophole of the argument in a article that you read, and think like how you can improve your argument while you're reading. And then practice. No good writers born overnight, right? So you have to practice more each and every day. You should write or make a target. Like at least this week, I published a chapter for my law review, for example, or put your target, right? So please make sure that you write each and every day, so you get used to write, and then be brave. Just brave to make an argument, brave to publish your piece. And when someone criticizes your piece, just be brave. It will open for discussions and etc. etc. So I think that's all what my presentations. I would be happy if there is any questions or discussions that you want to give during the Q&A session. So thank you very much. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aristio, for the very insightful presentation. Next, we'll be opening a question and answer session, but due to the very limited time that we have, we only accept one question only, because after this, we will have the workshop session. For the participant who would like to ask, please use the raise hand feature to speak directly or write the question through the Zoom chat. So I see there's one participant, Naya from Indonesia. Perhaps you would like to speak. You can turn on your microphone and speak directly.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Mr. Aristio, I would like to thankful for your comprehensive presentation, and I would like to ask you a question. On legal writing, I think not also in this particular section, which legal writing is have commonly existing enemy like plagiarism, and I would like to know if we're going to read a lot of books and we're going to know the ideas and how to construct it, and what is your tips on and what's distinct us between using that ideas, how you call it, is not a plagiarism, and how to create an authentic idea, right? Like that. Thank you, Mrs. Aristio.
Thank you very much, Naya, for the very important questions indeed. So plagiarism, I think it's very important topics. I could maybe talk for more than hours just in the topics of plagiarisms, but just to make it very short here, I think there's two tips on how to avoid plagiarisms. First, I think always paraphrase everything that you read and you want to cite. Make it with your own words. What I personally often do is when I do read articles, books, or sources, I just read the whole things, and then I close it without seeing it. I write it down with my own words, so that I'm avoiding on using the exactly same words or sentences that the initial author is using. And then the second thing is always mention, put citations, right? So even though you are paraphrasing, even though you're using your own words, if the ideas is not yours, so just make sure that you put a citations there, footnote, where you got that sources from, right? So you could use it, maybe there's a lot of citations from, right? You can use a direct quotations if you want to put your quote that particular paragraph in your law essays, or if you just paraphrase it, you can put it in the footnote. But make sure that you use your own words, and you still put the sources in the footnote. So that is very important, right? And then the second questions is like how to create or how to make your own ideas, how to make your own argument. Is first you have to know the existing literature, right? So you have to know what is the existing argument out there. So then after you know what argument out there, then you be able to you might have sense of like how to create a new issue, right? So this is why thinking about the subject while you're doing research is very important, right? Some of us is just writing where they are citing, but they not really think about that particular topics deeply. So they it's very difficult to find a new argument. But if you have enough time for doing a research, if you having time to contemplate, I think it would be uh, much more beneficial for you to having a fresh ideas. Also discussions, right? Sometimes after you read, you have a good discussions with your professor or with your colleague, and it's sometimes popping some new ideas, popping some new argument that is very fresh, very useful for your article. So that is my answer for your questions. I hope it's answered.
Thank you very much. It's really are helping me a lot, and I think it's same thing for all our students here. And thank you, Mrs. Arstia.
Thank you, Naya, for your questions.
Thank you to the participants for the enthusiasm in asking the question. However, due to the limited time, we'll now go on to the next awaited session, which is the workshop session. In the workshop session, participants will discuss the previously announced topic and be given time to write a short article. For the first chamber, it will stay in the main room, and the second chamber will go to the breakout room. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Aristia, for your time. Now I'll give the floor to the moderator for the first chamber, to Felicia. Felicia, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so we're just going to wait until all the participants from chamber 2 leave this chamber. Then we'll start. Is that okay? I see that we still have 2 participants, Miss Miss Trung and Miss Yunadi, you may go to the breakout room because this is the first chamber. Okay, we're just going to start now. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the first chamber of ALSA International Legal Writing and English Workshop 2020. I am Felicia as your moderator for today's session. The workshop for today will consist of first, a discussion session, second, writing session, and the last one is the review of one of the writings submitted in the writing session. Before we proceed to the workshop, let's meet first our facilitator. Joining us here from Singapore, we have Ms. Shirin Chua from the Center of Asian Legal Studies. Ms. Shirin, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see so much interest in legal writing on a Sunday afternoon.
Hello. Yeah, I hope you are doing well despite the pandemic.
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. So for of you guys that don't know Ms. Shirin, I'm going to introduce her first. So Ms. Shirin Chua is a research associate at the Center of Asian Legal Studies at National University of Singapore. She was also a Hofstra Global Scholar in NYU School of Law, where she obtained her LLM. And she has an extensive experience in public international law, international investment, alongside with commercial arbitration from her experience in Freshfields, Brockhaus, Deringer in Paris, France. I hope I pronounce it correctly. She also served as the judges of Supreme Court in Singapore. And now Ms. Shirin is currently a legal advisor at Independent International Legal Advocates, a New York-based organization that works with small and developing countries to enhance their capacity. We are very pleased to have you here today with us, and I look forward to our fruitful discussion with the participants here and after.
Thank you.
Now we will proceed now to the discussion session of today's workshop. For the participants, as announced previously in the email, we will be discussing about each country's legislation or law that were recently passed. In Indonesia, actually, we recently, the government passed the Bill of Job Creation, which drove a lot of controversies actually on both pros and cons side. Now, I see that we have participants from all across Asia here today with us, and we are curious as is there anyone would like to explain on the legislation they choose and their opinions on it? If someone would like to give their opinion, you can just directly speak out.
Actually, if I can could I just, Felicia, is it okay if I just jump in here and explain very quickly why I asked that question for the discussion session? So, as I think Mr. Aristio would have alluded to in the main session, a lot of what will drive your legal writing is the argument that you want to make in that piece of legal writing. So it's really useful before you even get to writing to understand why you're interested in, like why you pick the issue and what your interest is in that issue. And which is why I thought it would be helpful during this, I mean, it's a very short discussion that the moderators have allocated, but if anyone wants to discuss why they picked the topic that they picked that we will use for the writing session later, that would be, I mean, it would be a good demonstration to everyone for how you identify what you're interested in. Thank you, Felicia.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sharon. If there's anyone, is there anyone that would like to speak out their opinion?
I would like to try, if I may.
Yes, you may. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mrs. Siren Chua and Ms. Felicia. I would like to express my opinion about our recently bill job creation and why I choose that specific bill. In our country, there are two aspects that it is specifically analyzed. There is a formal and substantive factor on that bill. And in our process during making that bill of job creation, the government is not openly having a process that is include the people directly. So they're like not having an open discussion with the people, which it's I think it's not good for democracy. And also they're having a agent which built to guard that bill until the discussion stage, which only consists about an elite parties like entrepreneur, investor, and that is leading us the bill job of creation substantials with only like having it not representative for the people. So it's like only having a positive side on investors, but not on the people, which is wrong because in our country, we're like using a very basic standard called Pancasila, and it's one of the point is where state is basically have the goal to have a welfare for the people. And I think it's really interesting because this bill substances is only have a positive side on an investor and is disenfit and having a negative side on the people. Like first, they eliminate minimum minimum payment, which already have been established. So and second, I think is about they only going to pay it for an hour job. And I think that is from my opinion. If I think my fellow from Indonesian can describe it more comprehensive. And thank you.
Thank you, Naya, for sharing that. No, that was fine. And it was a comprehensive enough explanation for the discussion, and you want to save some material for your writing as well, so you don't have to explain all of it now. But thank you for starting us off with that.
Thank you, Ms. Sirin.
Thank you, Naya, for sharing your opinions. Is there anyone that would like to share their take on it? Or maybe someone would like to add?
I would like to share.
Yes, sure. Okay,
Good afternoon. My name is Orly Migarbio. I'm from the Philippines. I want to talk about the recently passed law. This is the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. So basically, for me, interesting at the same time controversial because the timing of the passage of the law is very off-putting, specifically because we are currently in a pandemic and the interest of the state was geared towards fighting a problem that is not very not so much of the interest right now because during this pandemic, the health crisis should be prioritized first, and it's very problematic to put up a law which basically put people, especially in democratic countries, to be bullied into silence. Excuse me, to be bullied into silence because dissenters are not allowed anymore to speak up freely because of the threat that they will be considered as terrorists. So I think it's anti-terrorism act in the Philippines is a interesting topic. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orly, for sharing your view. Unfortunately, time has elapsed, and now we're moving on onto the writing session of the workshop. And we would like to remind all the participants to pay attention to the guidelines which have been provided by the committee. Each participants will have 25 minutes of writing time and proceed to submit the writing through the provided Google form. And since a few writing will be chosen to review onto the next session of the workshop, we encourage all the participants to do their best, and there will be awards for the best participants. Thank you very much, and the writing time starts now.
Sorry, actually, one very quick note, just to remind everyone that clearly the issues that you've picked are issues that you care about and you're interested in, which is very good. Just remember that this is a legal writing workshop. So make sure that your arguments, so I've asked you to first write a summary, right, of the law or the legislation that you want to discuss, and then make your argument about your views on it. Make sure that the argument section is legal argumentation, right? So in respect to a legal analysis of that law, just bear that in mind. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sharon, for your reminder. And I would like to also remind all the participants that if they would like to ask questions to Ms. Sharon in the writing session, she will gladly answer, right, Ms. Sharon?
Yes.
Yes. So if you have certain